Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into the wild, wacky, and often baffling world of American politics to answer a truly perplexing question. Could Marco Rubio, the senator from the Sunshine State, be America's next Secretary of State? Now I know what you're thinking. Isn't he a bit busy trying to convince everyone he's seen a UFO? And to that I say yes, but stay with me. Because believe it or not, there are actually some compelling reasons why Rubio might just be the guy to charm, negotiate, and maybe even waterboard his way into the hearts of foreign leaders. Over the next few minutes, we'll be dissecting the 7 reasons why Rubio might just be the diplomatic dark horse America didn't know it needed. Let's get started. All right, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say the alligator in the Everglades. Marco Rubio's foreign policy experience. Now I know what you're thinking. Isn't his foreign policy experience limited to that time he awkwardly drank water on live television? And to that I say, okay, that was pretty rough. But in Rubio's defense, diplomacy can be thirsty work. And besides, his time on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hasn't been all awkward sips and side eyes. He's actually built a reputation for being surprisingly hawkish, particularly when it comes to dealing with countries like China and Russia. Think of him as the guy at the diplomatic poker table who's not afraid to go all in with a pair of twos. Is it a good strategy? Well, that's a debate for another time. But one thing's for sure, Rubio's not afraid to play hardball on the world stage. Let's dive a bit deeper into his foreign policy stances. Rubio has been vocal about his stance on China, often criticizing their human rights record and economic practices. He has pushed for stronger measures against China, advocating for sanctions and other economic pressures to curb their influence. Rubio's rhetoric on Russia is equally tough. He has consistently called for a firm stance against Russian aggression, particularly in Ukraine and other Eastern European countries. His approach is to ensure that the U.S. remains a strong ally to these nations, providing support and standing up to Russian expansionism. Beyond China and Russia, Rubio has also been a strong advocate for human rights globally. He has spoken out against regimes in Venezuela and Cuba, calling for democratic reforms and supporting opposition movements. His commitment to these issues shows a broader understanding of global politics and a willingness to engage in complex international matters. Critics may argue that his approach is too aggressive or that he lacks the nuanced experience of a seasoned diplomat. However, his supporters believe that his straightforward, no-nonsense style is exactly what is needed in today's volatile world. Whether you agree with his methods or not, it's clear that Marco Rubio is carving out a distinct place for himself in the realm of foreign policy. His actions and statements continue to spark debate and discussion, making him a figure to watch on the international stage. So the next time you think of Marco Rubio, don't just remember the water bottle incident. Consider his growing influence and the bold stances he's taking on some of the world's most pressing issues. Whether you laugh or take him seriously, one thing is certain. Marco Rubio is making waves in foreign policy, and he's not backing down anytime soon. Let's be honest, America's track record with Latin America is about as smooth as a Donald Trump tango. But here's where Rubio might just surprise us. As a Cuban American, he's got a unique understanding of the region's complexities, its passions, and its telenovelas. Okay, maybe not the telenovelas, but you get the point. He's fluent in Spanish, familiar with the culture, and he can probably even name all the members of Menudo. That's gotta count for something, right? Now, whether this translates into actual diplomatic success is another story. But hey, at least he'll be able to understand what the hell everyone's saying at the negotiating table. And that's more than we can say for some past secretaries of state. Condoleezza Rice. Let's be real, diplomacy is all about smooth-talking your way into favorable outcomes. It's a delicate dance of words, where every phrase and gesture can tip the scales in your favor or against you. It's about convincing your adversaries that what you want is also what they want, even if it means selling them a bridge in the Florida Everglades. The art of diplomacy is as much about perception as it is about reality. And when it comes to smooth-talking, well, Rubio's no slouch. His speeches are often peppered with anecdotes and personal stories that resonate with his audience, making complex policies seem relatable and understandable. He's known for his eloquence, his ability to weave narratives, and his uncanny resemblance to a young Ted Cruz. Rubio's speeches often leave a lasting impression, not just because of what he says, but how he says it. Okay, maybe not the last one, but his knack for storytelling and his ability to connect with people on a personal level are undeniable. But the point is, Rubio's got the gift of gab. He can deliver a stump speech that would make a used car salesman blush, and he's not afraid to deploy a well-timed zinger or two. His quick wit and sharp tongue have often left his opponents scrambling for a comeback. He can deliver a stump speech that would make a used car salesman blush, and he's not afraid to deploy a well-timed zinger or two. His quick wit and sharp tongue have often left his opponents scrambling for a comeback. His ability to think on his feet and respond to unexpected questions with poise and confidence is a testament to his communication skills. Now, whether this translates into charming the pants-off world leaders remains to be seen. The international stage is a different beast altogether, with its own set of rules and expectations. But if Rubio can bring his A-game, there's a good chance he could win over even the most skeptical of world leaders. But hey, at least he'll keep them entertained while he's picking their pockets. And in the world of diplomacy, sometimes keeping the conversation light and engaging is half the battle. So, can Rubio charm the pants-off world leaders? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure. It won't be boring to watch him try. Okay, let's be honest, bipartisanship in Washington is about as common as a sober night out with Lindsay Lohan. But here's the thing about Rubio, he's actually managed to maintain relatively good relationships with Democrats. I know it sounds crazy, right? But it's true. He's worked with Democrats on issues like immigration reform and disaster relief, proving that he's not completely allergic to compromise. Now, whether this translates into actual bipartisanship on foreign policy is a big, fat maybe. But hey, at least he's got the communication skills to have a civil conversation with the other side. And in today's hyperpartisan climate, that's a skill more valuable than a Trump Tower penthouse. Chapter 5. China and Russia. Not exactly on Rubio's Christmas card list. Marco Rubio has never been one to mince words when it comes to international relations, especially with countries like China and Russia. His approach is direct, unyielding, and often controversial. Let's be clear. When it comes to China and Russia, Rubio's stance is about as subtle as a sledgehammer to a porcelain tea set. He believes that a strong, uncompromising stance is necessary to protect American interests and maintain global stability. He's called for a more confrontational approach to both countries, advocating for increased military spending, economic sanctions, and a robust military presence in key regions. Rubio argues that showing strength is the only way to deter aggression from these powerful nations, and maybe even a strongly worded letter or two. His critics, however, argue that this approach could escalate tensions and lead to unintended consequences. They believe that diplomacy and dialogue should be prioritized over confrontation. Now, whether this is the right approach is a debate for another time. What is clear is that Rubio's methods have sparked significant discussion and debate among policymakers, analysts, and the public. Some see him as a necessary force for good, while others view his tactics as reckless. But one thing's for sure, Rubio's not afraid to stand up to America's rivals, even if it means risking a diplomatic incident or two. His willingness to take a hard line has earned him both praise and criticism, but he remains steadfast in his beliefs, even if it means risking a diplomatic incident or two. Rubio's approach is often compared to a high-stakes game of chess, where every move is calculated to achieve a strategic advantage. He believes that showing weakness is not an option when dealing with adversaries like China and Russia. He's like the guy at the international buffet who's not afraid to cut in line and grab the last egg roll, even if it means starting a food fight with the Russian ambassador. This metaphor captures his unapologetic and assertive style, which has become a hallmark of his political career, even if it means starting a food fight with the Russian ambassador. Rubio's approach to foreign policy is a reflection of his broader political philosophy, which emphasizes strength, resilience, and a willingness to confront challenges head-on. Whether you agree with him or not, there's no denying that Marco Rubio is a formidable presence on the international stage. Chapter 6. Rubio's global economic vision, free trade baby, unless it involves Cuba. When it comes to the global economy, Rubio's a firm believer in the power of free trade. He's all about opening up markets, slashing tariffs, and letting the invisible hand of the market do its thing. Think of him as the Adam Smith of American foreign policy, except with better hair and a slightly less enthusiastic view of the French. Now, whether this approach is good for American workers is a debate for another time. But one thing's for sure, Rubio's a staunch advocate for American businesses on the world stage. He's like the overzealous dad at a Little League game. Except instead of cheering for his kid, he's cheering for American corporations to crush their international competition. Chapter 7. The Latino vote, Rubio's secret weapon, maybe? Let's be real, the Latino vote is becoming increasingly important in American politics. And guess what? Rubio's pretty popular among Latino voters. He's like the cool uncle who shows up at family gatherings with a guitar and a cooler full of cerveza. Now, whether this translates into actual diplomatic success is anyone's guess. But hey, at least he'll be able to give a mean toast at international summits. And that's gotta count for something, right? So there you have it, 7 reasons why Marco Rubio might just be the next US Secretary of State. Will he actually get the job? Who knows? Is he the most qualified candidate? Debatable. But one thing's for sure, he'd certainly make things interesting. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. See you next time.